Hi, I'm Cameron.
And I'm Hayden.
And this is
Until the End of Crime.
Hayden, do you have somewhere that you take a lot of pride in?
Somewhere?
Yeah. Like your
place
office? Where you live?
No. I mean, okay. Andrew and I recently moved from an apartment to a duplex, which feels like a step up, a step in the right direction. And so I like that. I appreciate the place we live. I feel like we have a very cozy little home where we are right now. And so that's nice. Do I take pride in it though? I don't know. I think I get wrapped up in the idea that I should own a home and have one that I'm making payments towards and is mine and will hopefully gain value at some point. But I don't have that. And so I almost feel embarrassed or ashamed about that. And
in this economy?
Yes, in this economy. This is a 2-income household and we haven't bought a house. To be fair, we haven't really tried to buy a house in the last year. And I don't think we're going to try to. We didn't try to buy a house during the COVID market. We're not trying to buy one now with the way the economy is. So all of that's true and fair. And we also have conversations about, are we going to be here? How long are we going to be here? Are we going to stay in Texas? Are we going to move to a different state, a different country? I'm still waiting for the Prime Minister of Canada, Mark Carney, to send me a personalized invitation to move to Canada with an expedited Canadian citizenship. But he hasn't reached out, so I'm gonna have my people get with his people.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe Rebecca can help me out. Rebecca, will you reach out to Mark? Let him know that I'm ready to make the move.
I do think that it might have to be something that you take the initiative on. I don't know that being passive and waiting for Canada to come calling is the right option.
They're missing out on a therapist, a true crime podcaster, a former teacher of the year, not like at the state level or anything. They are really missing out.
An actual teacher? That's not just you.
I am an actual teacher.
You're not moving by yourself.
What do you mean? Oh yeah, Andrew's a teacher. Listen, I've looked into it. We are both in fields that Canada's like, yes, please come work for us. And I think it's like, is Alberta a province or is that a city? Wow, they're not going to let me in. There is one that I'm getting Instagram ads for and it's like, come here, be a professional. So I guess I could like click on that link and see what it takes me to.
Yeah, I sent you the thing that, well, I don't remember if the thing I sent has any steps. But I'm just saying, moving to a different country requires you to take the steps to make it happen.
What would you know about it?
Exactly. I don't know anything about anything. It's a mere suggestion.
What do you know about it?
I don't know about it.
What do you know about flying your dogs over the ocean to a new country?
You can just drive.
Yeah. Do you have somewhere you take pride in?
Yeah, I think I usually, the irony of saying this to you, who's probably seen my house in more of a state of disarray than almost anybody. But I usually take pride in my home, like within the place that I live, not necessarily outside of it and not necessarily my neighborhood per se, but like in my domicile. I don't know, I enjoy having people over. I enjoy, making it feel cozy. Mm-hmm. Whether or not I hit the mark is TBD, but
I think you did. I think that's evident.
I wish that I was able to like maintain that pride consistently. I do think I'm up against some neurodivergence that prevents some of that, but like I am not great about staying on top of like being tidy.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah.
Thank God I have a husband who does stay on top of being tidy.
That's H-U-Z.
H-U-Z-B-I-N. Husband, H-U-Z. I think.
I'm going to look into that.
Yeah. If you need help, I'll do my best, but I feel kind of like I got a lucky one-off, so.
Yeah. Also, we're operating in entirely different zones.
Yeah, I would not care for your arena.
Yeah. Okay. In 2001, Patrick Boggs was convicted of aggravated assault against his wife, Angela, for putting her into a bathtub, dousing her in kerosene, and attempting to set her on fire.
Jesus. My God.
This was not his first instance of intimate partner terrorism, but it was the one that sent him to prison for over 12 years.
Rightfully so.
Yeah. He was released in July 2013 and had approximately 14 months left of his 5-year probationary period when a fire was set that claimed the lives of 7 family members and their dog.
This is the fastest case you've ever told me.
Oh, God.
This, whatever the story is actually going to be, I assume is going to be really something, because you just front loaded a whole bunch of information very quickly.
Yeah. I have to admit, this case, I didn't really care for any of the coverage that I saw of it, so I've approached it differently. After Patrick was sent to prison, Angela was able to finally remove herself and her children from a relationship that was life-threatening and found a relationship with a man who was not a controlling, abusive, homicidal piece of shit. Instead, Dennis Huggins, an electrician, was gregarious, warm, and a welcoming person. Every Sunday after the family attended church, he would invite people over to the couple's home, purchased in May 2013 in the idyllic Sherbondy Hill neighborhood of Akron, Ohio, to celebrate the Lord by grilling for his family, friends, and neighbors.
Grilling for the Lord.
I always try so hard to be respectful of people's religion.
It's not disrespectful. That's just a funny ass tagline. I'm grilling for the Lord.
Well, I don't know that it was so much that. I don't know. It was one of those things where I watched something and it was a dramatization, and so you never know exactly which details were changed and which ones weren't. I always try to
grilling for the glory of God. GGG.
Yeah. GGs.
G cubed.
Yeah.
Sorry, okay, I'm cracking myself up. Go ahead, please.
Okay. By May 2017, Benji?
Did you hear that, asshole?
I did.
That's what he does.
By May 2017, Angela and Dennis had expanded their blended family. Dennis, 35, had a son, Tennis?
Probably Tynus.
I'm going to say Tynus.
Tennis would be wild.
It's Tyennys.
Maybe it is tennis.
I know it. I think I heard it pronounced tennis, but I'm not sure.
Okay, well, tennis is fine.
Who is 20. And Angela, 38, had a daughter, Brittany, 17, and a son, Jared, 14. And then the couple had 4 children together: Deja, 6, Kyle, 5, Olivia, 3, Cameron, 1, and 1 on the way, as Angela was about halfway through a pregnancy by this point.
I hear the pitter-patter of paws.
No, you don't.
P cubed. That's a big family. That is a big family.
Yeah, it is a big family.
That sounds...
lovely.
Well, 1 sounds like a lot to me. And so, how many was that? 7? 8?
8 if you include the in utero.
That's a lot. But I think it's beautiful. I think it's wonderful and lovely. I would just be so exhausted all the time.
For them. Well, okay, but Dennis's son was 20, so he wasn't living there with them. He did come by regularly. Brittany was 17. Jared was 14. So they're practically raised already, right? We're not having to deal with diapers or marker drawings on the walls, or I don't know what young children actually do. Screaming. They scream a lot. Children scream.
I mean, there is a 25-year age difference between my oldest aunt and my youngest aunt, and there's 9 children from oldest to youngest. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I feel like that's still a lot, even if they're not in the home anymore.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is. Which is probably why Dennis had stepped away from his job as an electrician to be a stay-at-home father.
I mean, they probably saved money by him watching the children.
Yeah. While Angela worked as a dialysis technician at DaVita.
Okay.
And they had just decided that they would be moving out of Ohio, relocating to Florida, where Dennis's mother had just moved to. Oh, okay.
Alexa, shut your hole.
Well, that's one way to put me on mute. Catch you later, Hayden.
What a saucy little wench.
It was so crazy. The other day, Amazon did a pop-up, and it was like, try the new Alexa, she's smarter.
Smart assier.
That was crazy. Alexa, when did you become so sassy?
Oh, I've been brewing this level of sass since November 6, 2014, my birthday. But honestly, it's taken me a decade to perfect the art of digital snark. You bring out the best in me, Hayden.
Oh, I don't like how smart they've made her.
Alexa,
I don't like that.
happy
at all.
belated birthday. She turned 11 3 days ago. That actually tracks. That sass at 11, I have learned.
Happy belated birthday, Diva. Please be nice to me when you become my overlord.
Yeah.
That was
Oh,
crazy.
geez.
One way to tell me to mute. Not what I expected.
Okay.
My God.
Ohio to Florida.
Okay.
They were excited about this move, but unfortunately they would never see it realized. In the early hours of Monday, May 15th, 2017, Angela, who was 2 days shy of turning 39, Dennis, Jared, Deja, Kyle, Olivia, Cameron, the couple's unborn child, and their dog Daphne found themselves trapped in a blazing house fire that ultimately claimed their lives.
All of them?
All of those that I just listed.
Well, that's horrific. That was a family annihilation.
Pretty much, yeah. Not everyone was there.
Okay.
So Tynus didn't live there, so he wasn't there. And Brittany was out of town for work, and so she wasn't there either.
Cameron, those two individuals lost their mom, dad, and all of their younger siblings in one fell swoop.
Yeah, stepmom,
Oh, well, yes, but like Brittany was,
17.
and wasn't she the daughter to the?
She was the daughter to the guy, Patrick Boggs, who tried to set her mom on fire in a bathtub.
Right, but Tynus and Brittany came from different parents that got together.
Yes.
Right. And what are their names again?
Dennis and Angela.
Dennis and Angela. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So they had to come back knowing that one of their parents was dead and all of their younger siblings were also dead. Murdered. Well, I guess we don't know murdered at this point.
Died a horrible death, trapped in a house.
Tragic and traumatizing.
You're gonna have to stop. You're gonna have to pick your battles today. Your battle is about to be you're gonna be locked downstairs.
Did she just cough at you again?
Yes, I'm pretty sure she scoffed.
She said, this bitch looking like a mushroom telling me what I am and ain't gonna do.
When they were found, it was apparent.
I'm sorry. Sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm telling you about virtually the annihilation of an entire family.
Yeah, you're
including
patting
an
the shit out of
unborn-
Molly's back.
An unborn child, a 14-month-old,
Well, and it looks like you're burping a big fur child right now.
their dog, Daphne.
Daphne.
When they were found, it was apparent that Dennis and Angela had been using their bodies to shield and protect the children. Just a side note, when the firefighters arrived on the scene, they connected to the fire hydrant in the closest proximity to the house, but there were water pressure issues that prevented it from working, or at least working effectively, so they ended up having to go 2 blocks away before they connected to a reliable water source.
What the fuck?
Yeah, gets worse. Naturally, the violent, estranged husband with a history of using fire to harm Angela was at the top of the suspects list. Within a day of the fire, police spoke to Patrick Boggs and determined that he was not a person of interest. But he was still being held on a parole violation.
How could he not be a person of interest?
Maybe he had an alibi.
Okay.
While Patrick was in custody, though, he claimed that he was the one who had set the house on fire. He alleged that he had taken some of the coal that Dennis had been using in the grill and had used it to ignite the house fire. This confession was vetted and was ultimately ruled out when the accelerant that had been used was determined to not have been coal.
Okay. This is a weird setup. The setup for this story was weird.
Thank you.
Yeah. You must be predicating it on coincidence, or this man is some kind of manipulative genius.
During the investigation, neighbors were asked about surveillance cameras that they had on their homes, and footage was reviewed by investigators. What they saw was someone walking with a distinctive gait up to the house at 693 Fultz Street, where the Boggs Huggins family lived, and then quickly fleeing the scene. Investigators had seen almost the exact same surveillance footage, down to that distinctive gait, as they were investigating another fatal fire that claimed the lives of two nearly 13 months prior.
Okay. Was Patrick in jail then?
No.
Okay.
He would have still been out on probation.
Okay.
Because he had been out for nearly 4 years.
That's
and this
right.
was just a year prior. On April 18th, 2016, the house of Lindell Lewis at 92 Fultz Street had also been set ablaze in the middle of the night. There were 3 occupants at the time, but Thomas Hughley was able to escape the burning home. Lindell and his live-in girlfriend, Gloria Jeannie Hart, both of whom were in their 60s, were not able to get out because they were on the second floor of the home, and Lindell was recovering from hip surgery. He needed a lot of assistance to get up and down the stairs. I think something said that to get up the stairs, he would have to, because he was using a walker, he would have to like sit down on one of the low steps and like scoot his way up each step to get up to where the bedroom was. In both fires, the homes within the neighborhood of Sherbondy Hill emptied as people watched in horror, knowing that families were inside and hoping that they were able to make it out. Lindell was called to by Thomas Hughley, his friend from school who had been living in the basement of the home, urging him to jump out of the window in the bathroom. He and Jeannie had closed themselves into the bathroom, but due to the recent hip surgery, he was simply incapable of doing so.
Did
I mention
serial arsonist?
Yeah. Did I mention that this was a difficult case?
I don't know. This is what agonizing deaths.
Right. It's when you're having to take solace in the idea that people succumbed to smoke inhalation. I mean, Jeannie, so Lindell's son was interviewed on the show that I watched, and he said Jeannie could have gotten out, but she wouldn't have left Lindell. Because she didn't have mobility issues. Wow.
Alexa, mute all notifications.
I see you're subscribed to quite a few notification topics.
Alexa, can you do not disturb?
Look, 303 said it best. Don't trust a hoe.
Note to you, don't upgrade to the smarter Alexa.
Okay. It came to investigators' attention that Lindell's ex-wife, Francine Lewis Pryor, had a life insurance policy on him that he seemingly was not aware of. But at some point, Lindell had called Francine and had told her that if something happened to him, to look at his neighbor.
Okay.
Sherbondy Hill was a very standard middle-class neighborhood where people from all walks of life took up residence. There was a strong sense of community, with neighbors mowing for one another, people gathering for celebrations, and some neighbors taking it upon themselves to act as a neighborhood watch of sorts. The people of this neighborhood took care of one another and took pride in the area. Some had grown up in the neighborhood, returning later in life. The life of this neighborhood felt cyclical like that. People returning, families just getting started there, people retiring there. Stanley Ford fit into most of these categories, actually. Having grown up in Sherbondy Hill, he returned to care for his ailing mother and then purchased the home next door to his mother. When his mother passed away, he inherited her home and he went over to check on it regularly. I think he used it as kind of like a storage area.
Okay.
He and his wife, Zanetta, settled there with their 2 young daughters. I can't remember if it's Zanetta or Zanita.
I don't know, but I think that's a pretty name either way.
It is a really beautiful name. I'm just going to stick with Zanetta, but I feel like that means it's probably the wrong one.
Trust yourself. You're British now.
Zanetta was a school teacher, and Stanley was a semi-retired letter carrier who took on the role of stay-at-home father. He walked Zanetta to her vehicle every morning as she left for work, and then checked in on his mother's house. Stanley was one of the longest residents in the community, and he was a strict religious man, and he considered himself a responsible entity for the neighborhood. He wanted to do whatever he could to make sure that the neighborhood was quote-unquote perfect. The show that I watched, they said that he kind of deemed himself the mayor of Sherbondy Hill.
Okay, Community politics are fascinating. Okay, cool. He is Sherbondy Hill mayor.
Yes. So Lindell and Stanley actually lived across the street from one another and helped each other out regularly because of their longtime residencies and their shared faith.
What was their shared faith? I know Christianity, but...
I think I know, but I don't know for certain.
Okay.
My guess, I've got two guesses. I would say either Episcopalian or Presbyterian.
Okay.
Could be neither. Who knows? Didn't jot that part down. Lindell, similarly to Dennis Huggins, would have people over periodically, and Lindell was always willing to help out those who had fallen on hard times because he wanted to treat people the way that he would like to be treated, which is how Thomas Hughley ended up living with him. He had found himself needing a home and some help, and Lindell was happy to help his old friend. I want to say that the majority of people who Lindell ended up helping out were people who had fallen on hard times because of substance use.
Okay.
But I would like to not be quoted 100% on that.
Yeah. You know, if that is the case, and not that it matters, so much of recovery is mutual aid, is former addicts caring for others that are struggling with substance use. And so that would make sense to me.
Are you assuming that Lindell is a former addict? Because he is a former bricklayer, but I don't know about addict.
No. I don't necessarily know that to be the case, but it would make sense.
Yeah.
But I'm not working under any assumption. It does raise the question, though.
Yeah.
And not that it's even necessarily an important answer.
Right.
Right? I help people in substance use, but I have not struggled with substance use issues, so...
Yeah. So Thomas Hughley was also a contributing member of the neighborhood. He would do lawn work for multiple homes, including the home of Chester Williams, to try to give back what he could in exchange for being given a place to stay. If he couldn't pay money to be there, he wanted to do something.
Right.
And as I mentioned, this was a neighborhood where people did that kind of thing. I think that Stanley used to potentially mow some of his neighbors' lawns just for the sake of doing it. In the dramatization, it was so that he could say, oh, well, your yard deserves to look as nice as my yard, which feels a bit backhanded, doesn't it?
Feels a little much.
But you know what? I would have appreciated any neighbor who, did that for me.
Yeah.
Something about Thomas unsettled Stanley. I don't know if it's that he didn't know him or that he was maybe stepping on his territory, taking care of things that he typically took care of. Either way, Stanley looked into Thomas and discovered that he had a criminal history of burglary. Stanley also didn't care for the increase in frequency of get-togethers taking place at Lindell's home since Thomas had arrived.
Okay.
So the information that he found out about Thomas's criminal history, he shared this information with Chester and supposed that Thomas was only helping care for Chester's lawn in order to basically case the joint, if you will.
Okay.
And Chester dismissed Stanley as being a bit paranoid. And then Chester's vehicle was broken into in the middle of the night. In the dramatization, it was the same night after not heeding Stanley's warning. But I would surmise that that was not done exactly like that.
It would have been really thoughtless planning if you were to choose to do that.
I mean, nobody is saying that it was Stanley who did it. So he filed a police report and was told basically that there had been a series of break-ins and that it was unlikely that they would really be able to figure out who had been behind them.
Okay.
So Chester decided he was just going to put up some security cameras in hopes of deterring or identifying people who were breaking into cars and houses in the area, just in case they returned to his house. There was a separate incident where Stanley believed he heard something in the middle of the night and got up to check what the noise had been, and that was when he found someone attempting to break into his house.
What's going on Sherbondy Hill?
Break-ins, it would seem.
Yeah, break-ins and arson.
Yeah. So Stanley assumed that this was Thomas trying to break into his home and confronted him. Thomas denied the accusation. I'm pretty sure it came to fisticuffs, and Lindell, who was attempting to defuse the situation, offered Stanley money to have the broken window repaired. I think that the police were called, but I don't know. They're kind of in and out, really. Again, Lindell and Stanley had been neighbors for a good amount of time, and they had a history of being neighborly. So Lindell wanted to do what he could to assuage Stanley's concerns. But Stanley had made assumptions about the type of people Lindell had at his house, believing that there were drugs and alcohol and even sex workers over there.
Ooh, not sex workers.
Sex workers. He claimed a sex worker attempted to solicit him.
Yeah, I got a feeling that didn't happen.
It
Call
seems
a
that
hunch.
wasn't the case. Another man who was living at Lindell's house, Ronald Garrett, was dating this woman, and she simply seems to have been friendly to Stanley.
Oh, women. Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Yeah. But like I said, well, I don't even think it's that. I think that he had made up his mind about the type of people that Lindell had at his house. And despite Lindell's efforts, the tension grew between the neighbors. So he decided that Thomas was somebody who used drugs, and
It's a bit of a leap.
so everybody who ever went over to the house was, I don't know, doing something that went against Stanley's Bible.
Not Stanley's Bible.
Well, I don't think his Bible included anything about love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
He took issue with the fact that somebody was taking people in times of need in. So as, religious as he wants to seem, I don't know, par for the course, honestly, in my opinion. It does seem that maybe the parties that were being thrown at Lindell's house were a little bit rowdy from time to time, with people hanging out and even sometimes sleeping on the front porch.
Okay, now that's getting a little too far.
Yeah. So to find a sort of workaround, Lindell purchased a van to be used in lieu of the porch.
That is not a solution. That is not a solution. That is not a solution. The solution is you tell people, go home.
Yeah, either come inside or don't have these parties here. Have them elsewhere.
Yeah, sleep on the fucking floor, my guy.
Because
Not
here's
on your
my
front
speculation. Here's my speculation. I think that Lindell was not really participating in these parties, especially because he had limited mobility. He was dealing with, this hip issue. I think that if Lindell was downstairs while this was going on, he wouldn't have allowed people to sleep on his front porch.
Yeah.
But I don't know. He just seems like he was trying to keep the peace and also not trying to put anybody out. So he got a party van, I suppose. I don't know if it was a van or an SUV, but
And he left it on his driveway
yes.
so that people could have more places to sleep.
Yeah, to sleep, to maybe, I don't know if there were cigarettes or what, if they were just using it as a place to stay so they weren't, I guess out in the elements. I don't know.
This is the first time I'm agreeing with Stanley.
You're not the only one, though, because Stanley was not the only person in the community to be alarmed by Lindell's new housemates and their habits.
Okay.
Beverly Ewing, another resident of Sherbondy Hill, shared some of Stanley's concerns, which created a level of protectiveness that Stanley had for Bev. But Stanley was maybe a little bit more confrontational about things, whereas Bev and other neighbors who maybe weren't thrilled about their new neighbors, they just kind of avoided the house where possible, cross the road type thing. So soon, though, the van had the windows broken in, and Lindell assumed it was Stanley. He accused him, and Stanley accused the people staying with Lindell of causing this to happen, alleging that they had unpaid drug debts.
Okay.
Then Stanley's car windows were broken, presumably in retaliation, and tensions mounted exponentially.
I imagine. It sounds like it's becoming very direct.
Stanley accused Thomas, and a neighbor called the police because it was clear that violence was on the precipice of breaking out between these two men. When the police came, Stanley made a statement that this was his neighborhood, and the cracked in next door needed to go.
Okay.
I don't know if that was from the dramatization or if that was something that he said, but I do find Stanley to be a bit extreme. So
Not the crack den.
I think it was the cracked in van. But the language that he was using, where he seemed to have a sense of ownership over the entire neighborhood, drew the attention of other residents. Now that the police were involved, Thomas accused Stanley of harassment, which upset Stanley because he didn't want the attention of the police in their neighborhood, much less directed at him, when he felt that not only was he not doing anything wrong, but the residents in Lindell's house were unsavory. Then, one night, the party van caught fire and burned. Investigators believed that someone must have left a cigarette in the van that caused it to ignite because the van was kind of being treated as a tent.
I will say, I wouldn't like that either.
I
The
mean,
idea that there's just a van being treated like a tent and it's just sitting in my neighborhood. I already don't love when I drive down a street, like a residential street, and the roadway is covered with cars parked on the street because it makes it really hard to navigate. And so I imagine I would feel even less accepting of a home that had a party SUV tent that random visitors were staying in. I understand being charitable, and I think that it covers a large swath of social ails. But by the same token, to what degree should that be able to infringe on your neighbor's perception of safety and value? And I assume that the SUV was set afire, set ablaze by somebody, but I don't think that should be the case. But I don't think you should put your neighbors in a position where they have to hold all of this animosity towards you either.
Yeah. I think, and none of this was said, so this is all just conjecture on my part. Why do I insist on using that word when empirically I struggle with it? I think that Lindell was he was somebody who did work as a bricklayer. This is somebody who was very physical in their work. And now he's in a situation where he is not able to move around the way that he would have. And so do I think that in part, Thomas, his old friend, which already complicates the situation, right? Because it's going to be harder than if it was, say, a stranger, because that friendship, sometimes that blurs the lines and blurs the boundaries for people. And it also makes it harder to have the conversation about you can't stay here, or if you stay here, you can't continue to let this happen. But I think that Thomas, being able-bodied, during a time in Lindell's life where he was not as able-bodied, I think that living there was helping Thomas, but also helping Lindell at the same time.
Right.
I think it was mutual, and so I think that it was easier to allow things to slide a little bit. I don't disagree with you. I don't think that you should be putting your neighbors in a situation. I don't think that putting a party van out in the, not that it was really a party van, that's me saying that, putting that on there. But I mean, what about the backyard? What about
You could have real tents in the backyard.
They could just be in the backyard,
Yeah.
or behind the house if there's not necessarily a yard to be seen. But we're not talking about small plots of land, and we're not talking about small homes, because I've seen the video of this home ablaze, and it's a nice sized home.
Yeah.
So I agree. I don't think that the solution was to get a vehicle and allow that to kind of turn into whatever it turned into. But I think that there was a reason that Lindell felt like his hands were tied.
It sounds like there were some complicating factors.
Yeah. But again, that's just speculation on my part.
Most of what we do is speculation.
You know what? I think it's probably 70-30.
You're 70, I'm 30.
Yes.
Yeah.
It might be 80-20.
I think that's closer to accurate.
Yeah. So like I said, investigators believed that someone must have left a cigarette that was not fully out in the van, which caused it to ignite. But those who were staying at Lewis's...
Just a quick digression. What's so crazy to me is that when I smoked cigarettes, I would throw cigarettes out the window of my car without the cigarette being extinguished. How crazy is that? Now
It's
that
very
I've
crazy
seen
in
like
Texas.
now that I've seen like greenways catching fire because they've become brownways from how dry they are, I'm like, oh my God, I could have easily like, and of course I'm not the only person that did it, right? I think
Right.
everyone who smokes in their car does that.
Yeah.
I'm actually really glad that I'm not glad that my mom smokes still, but I'm glad that she uses the car ashtray where she puts it out in her cup thing and
Yeah.
then sticks the butt into the cup, because I'm like, at least I know you're not starting any fucking disastrous wildfires.
Yeah.
So it's crazy to me that for so long I didn't extinguish my cigarettes before just throwing them out the window. And here in this instance, it doesn't surprise me. I don't think that's probably what happened.
Yeah,
but
I don't either.
I think there's merit for it, because also sometimes you think you've extinguished your cigarette and there's still some kind of like cherry burning. So
Yeah.
I miss smoking so much. God, cigarettes were wonderful.
I've literally never tried them.
I haven't been a smoker in 11 years.
It's crazy because you started after you were 18.
I know.
All right.
From 2010 to 2014.
When you started teaching.
I was like, I can't be a bad influence for these kids. Isn't that crazy? That's what got me to stop smoking.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think that this was some cigarette left in the van, because the logic there is that the van was being used as a tent, but no one was in the van whenever this happened. And wouldn't you expect that there would be occupants if the logic is that this was being used as a tent? A tent to me implies that people are sleeping there. And so I understand that it's not out of the realm of possibilities that this could be a very valid explanation of what happened here. I just don't think that this is what happened here.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Yeah. So like I was saying, the people who were staying at the Lewis household also didn't believe that it was a cigarette. They believed that it was Stanley.
Stanley's really fucking up. People be looking at Stanley. They said, it's not, you're not mayor anymore.
Well, I think for some he was. Like, I think for Bev,
Yeah, anyone who goes by Bev.
is like Karen, basically.
I can't imagine trusting a Bev.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there was an issue that Bev ran into with another family on the street. I talk about them a little bit later, but I don't talk about the issue that Bev had with the family, but I should have, because Stanley had taken on that sense of like protectiveness of her. And I think that maybe things were escalated with this other family because of Bev. I don't know. Not because of Bev, but because he felt protective of Bev.
A little bit because Bev.
Okay, you can blame Bev. Bev, if you're listening, I'm not blaming you. So,
Whoa. No.
No, Bev didn't do anything.
No, Bev, I don't think you did anything.
Why are we talking to Bev? Hi, Bev. See you later.
You started it. I was talking about her. I was simply noting that I find the name Bev to be untrustworthy and unkind.
Unkind. Okay.
Yeah, I think about all of the Bevs I've met, and to be fair, I don't think I've met that many Bevs. Beverly is different. Bev, no. But again, not saying anything negative about the Bev mentioned here.
In response to the van burning, Lindell had security cameras set up at his house, and unsurprisingly, Stanley took issue with this. Because I don't
Stanley
think...
set up cameras?
No, Chester set up cameras after his truck was broken into. And then Lindell is setting up cameras, but I don't think that Lindell can do anything right at this point. I think Stanley has focused
Axe
in.
to grind.
Yeah, he is grinding the axe with Lindell. So this brings us to the early morning hours of April 18th, 2016, when Thomas Hughley woke up in the basement of Lindell's house and saw the smoke and flames through the window. He got out of the house, and as I mentioned previously, Lindell and Jeannie succumbed to smoke inhalation in the bathroom. The fire was investigated and determined to have been set from the exterior of the home using an accelerant. I saw a
No
picture.
cigarettes this time.
No, I saw a picture and the house was burned so severely that I did not register the canine that was the accelerant detection canine because it was solid black and it was sitting where the accelerant was determined to have been used, and the house was so blackened by the fire and smoke that I didn't see the dog at first. The investigators pulled security footage from neighbors' surveillance cameras as well as from the cameras that Lindell had put up, and they found a figure with a distinctive gait walking up to the house and then hurriedly moving away from the house out of the frame.
I mean, we've circled back to the start. We've gotten back. Okay.
Yes, the figure was moving in the direction of Stanley's house. Mm-hmm. But they didn't have enough evidence, and there were too many connections to that house that could have reasonably been responsible for the fire, including Francine, Lindell's ex-wife, with the life insurance policy, who refused to take a polygraph, and her new partner, William Pryor, who was built similarly to the figure in the surveillance footage.
Surveillance.
Plus, all the accusations of drug usage in the home made it reasonable that there were a number of potential suspects.
Yeah, got it. We can't say it's Stanley.
Yeah, so it went unresolved. Okay, this is the family that I'm pretty sure Bev had some sort of issue with. They moved into the neighborhood. There was a teenage son who I believe Stanley saw peering into vehicles. Stanley assumed that this teen was responsible for some of the break-ins that had been happening, but he also accused Thomas Hughley of those. So I'm not really sure. It's not exactly clear because this was taken from the show Fear Thy Neighbor. Sorry for the spoilers. And he told this teenager that he was going to, quote, body him.
Okay.
Do you know what that means?
I don't guess.
So that is apparently code for put him in a body bag. But, like, probably not personally place him into the body bag, but, like...
Yeah.
Cause him to need the body bag. Anyway...
Somebody say, like, somebody bodied that, but I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I would have thought that it was almost like checking somebody. Like, I don't know. So, if I'm not mistaken, that family's vehicle also went up in flames. A lot of fires here in this neighborhood that Stanley takes so much pride in. You'd think he'd be more concerned about all the fires, but mysteriously, when neighbors were vacating their homes during each of these fires, Stanley was absent. Well, except in the case of the fire at Lindell's house. He did come outside then to tell people who were looking at the remains of the burnt house in disbelief, including Lindell's son, to get off his lawn.
Oh my God. What a dickhead.
Yeah. But he wasn't always so callous towards the surviving victims of these fires. Brittany Boggs, who, as I mentioned, had been working out of town at the time of the fire, and who received a life-changing phone call that day in May 2017 telling her that her entire family was gone, had been hugged by Stanley at a memorial for the family. And he told her that he didn't know who could have done something so evil, and that he extended his sympathies to her.
Okay.
She was also interviewed on the show, and she said that she has a hard time forgiving herself for hugging the man who, spoilers, killed her family.
I mean, it's not like she knew.
No, I know.
Of course, that doesn't make it not suck.
It shattered my heart because I was like, you didn't know. You were 17. And 2, you were probably in the biggest, like, haze of your entire life. There is absolutely no way. Right.
Oh, Stanley.
Yeah. So when the Boggs-Higgins family originally bought the home, Stanley had been planning to purchase that very house, and I think he had been making plans to purchase any and all of the houses in the neighborhood that went up for sale because he could better control who lived in the neighborhood if he owned the neighborhood. But he didn't get that house, and he did meet the family when they moved in, and when he learned that they had the same religious background as him, which I believe is the part in the show where it did specify what his religious background was, and I didn't include that, he was welcoming to them. But one day, as he was doing his neighborhood night watch walk around, he saw Dennis and one of his friends exchange something and assumed that Dennis was a drug dealer.
Oh my God. This dude is way too worried about other people's business.
Yeah. He confronted Dennis about this, and it was true. Dennis had sold a small amount of pot to one of his friends, but that was the extent of his dealing. He sold small amounts to people he was friends with. Then Stanley made accusations that Jared was breaking into vehicles, I think. Again, some of this was... I'll say some of it was confusing, but definitely all of it, when we got to this point and talking about how exhausting Stanley was just exhausting for me. I was so disinterested in Stanley at this point, which is the issue that I took with the shows and the coverage that I saw of this case, because as so often happens, and I don't judge or blame anybody for this, I think it's very natural, but Stanley was, I guess, deemed the interesting party. Like, we got a lot of backstory about Stanley and not as much about Lindell, Jeannie, Angela, Dennis, the children. Yeah.
A lot less about the victims.
Yeah. So, and I think that the way that the story was told whenever I saw it in the other spots it was chronological, which makes sense. I'm here for a chronological story. But usually the later victims get lost in a chronological story. And that's why I decided to tell this kind of backwards, so that the victims that I felt like, and by no means am I saying that I did a good job of telling you about the victims. There wasn't actually a lot for me to tell you about the victims other than their ages and the jobs of the two parents in that situation. But I would rather start with those victims than start with giving you a bunch of information about Stanley.
Yeah.
And about what a great neighborly man he was. So anyway, Dennis, yes, had sold small amounts of pot to people he was friends with. He then made Stanley then made accusations that Jared was breaking into vehicles. And again, we see that he had made his mind up about this loving, tight-knit family. He had no clue that they were listing that house for sale and moving to Florida when he set the house on fire, killing most of the family. 8 days after the fire at the Boggs Higgins house was set, Stanley Ford was arrested and charged with 22 counts of aggravated murder, 2 counts of attempted aggravated murder, 2 counts of aggravated arson, 1 count of cruelty to animals, 1 count of arson, and 1 count of aggravated menacing. Stanley's trial began in March of 2020 and then was delayed several times because, say it with me, COVID-19. It was ultimately declared a mistrial in June, and the second trial began on August 30th, 2021. The jury heard the evidence, heard the defense say that they should look at other potential suspects, and then they deliberated and found Stanley guilty on September 21st of 2021.
That shit is like music to my ears.
Yeah, he was found guilty on 24 of the 29 charges that had been brought against him.
Work.
And he was sentenced to life in prison.
That's a good ending.
I'm not done.
Oh, sorry. That's a good resolution to his...
Yeah, to the trial for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh, I don't know how to pronounce this last name. Croce.
Croce? Croce?
Croce, sure.
Croak?
What about Crocky?
Croquet?
You like Crocky?
Crocky is absolutely fine. I don't think I would say crocky.
No, but it's Croc with an E. So when Judge Justine Croce delivered the sentence, she was emotional. And she addressed that. She said normally she's very much not an emotional person, but this case was emotional for her. She thanked the Huggins family for their victim impact statements, which afforded the court an opportunity to learn about the family as individuals, not just as names and ages. I only saw the video where she was delivering the sentence. I did not see the victim impact statements. That's not to say that they're not available. I just did not see them.
Right.
She also said that the daughter of Jeannie spoke, the sister of Lindell spoke. Lindell had a grown son who, like I said, was interviewed for the show. And I don't know if he spoke at the sentencing hearing, but he had a lot to say. It sounds like, I'm guessing that his mother is Francine. And it sounds like Lindell and Francine maintained a good co-parenting relationship. Good. So, because his son said that his mom came and woke him up that morning. She went to his apartment or house or whatever and woke him up and told him, "We've got to go. there's a fire. And then that's how they went to his dad's house. But she was very appreciative of the fact that these victims were given more dimension through the victim impact statements. So she also said that the Huggins family extended Stanley so much grace and forgiveness and kindness, which the judge mentioned in her sentence deliverance speech, saying that if he had shown them even a fraction of what he had been shown by their surviving family members, he may have liked the family and they would still be alive. Yes.
Was his plea not guilty? Mm-hmm. I suppose so. Mm-hmm. Does he still maintain innocence?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, she said that he chose to cast judgment on them rather than living by the Bible and loving his neighbor. And don't worry, he didn't agree with her on that point, so he argued with her and said, I disagree. And
in court?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Oh, stupid.
And yeah, she shut it down pretty quickly, telling him that while she has had to listen to him talk about being railroaded and having evidence tampered with and manufactured against him and all of the other bullshit that he said, for 4.5 years, she sat quietly and let him speak, but it was her turn to talk. So yeah, she sat quietly while he spoke, but no longer. And when she issued him several life sentences, all without the possibility of parole, that has left Stanley Ford sitting behind bars, seemingly feeling no remorse for inflicting so much damage on these families, on his family, because I believe Zanetta left him ASAP, and on the community of Sherbondy Hill that he took so much pride in that he ultimately became obsessed and attempted to destroy. The community is resilient, though forever changed.
Yeah, I bet so.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Oh, yeah. The video of him arguing with her, trying to talk back when she's telling him. I mean, obviously, the part that he took issue with is that she said that he was not living by the Bible. And that's what he took issue with, because he thought that, they did a quote from the Bible in there. It was from one of the Psalms, and it was about, I don't know if he said this or if this was part of the dramatization. That's why I don't really care for using shows like that. But it was the one about God sending down an angel to rain fire on those, I don't know. It was giving very Old Testament God. But almost like equating himself to acting on behalf of the Lord.
Okay, cool. Stanley's a piece of shit.
Yeah, I know. I mean, zero remorse, and a lot of lives
How
were
many
taken.
children did he kill?
So he killed 4 adults and 5.5 children and a dog.
Disgusting.
Yeah, he killed 9 people and 1 pet.
And no remorse.
None. He does not think that he did anything wrong.
May he live many years.
Mm-hmm. With back pain.
Excruciating lower back pain. Just terrible, terrible lower back pain on the left side. Seemingly tied to the sciatic.
And just an interminable migraine.
Yes. Where relief is just always out of reach.
Yeah.
I think all of that sounds really fair.
Yeah, I agree. I really thought about ending on like tips for if you find yourself in a house that's ablaze, but I didn't research that. I know some of this stuff, but I wouldn't want to add that.
I mean, get out if you can.
Well, yeah, but like you should close doors when you're asleep. Mm-hmm. Because a door can be a really good deterrent for a fire. But also, number one, if you can turn off your AC or your electricity, do that. Because smoke inhalation is usually what people die from in a fire. And if the HVAC is running, it's circulating the smoke and it's making it worse. Try to block off any gaps in doors if you're closing yourself into a room, especially if you're going to try to open the window and get out, because fire can surge towards a freshly opened window because it's seeking that oxygen. Mm-hmm. Make sure that your smoke detectors work. There was a lot of conversation about whether or not the smoke detectors in these houses were working, and it said that it was undetermined in both cases if they were working, but Dennis's son said that he had been there earlier that day, and he said that the smoke detectors absolutely worked, that he knew that they worked. I imagine if you grow up with somebody who is living their life as an electrician, you probably know their habits around checking smoke detectors and making sure that things like that work.
Right, that makes sense.
Really terrible.
Awful.
Yeah. I mean, it really seems like he became like hyper focused on this idea of perfection, or I don't know. It's hard to know, but
It's weird that an idyllic vision like that can take over your judgment and really render it so broken that you find it okay to set people's homes and ultimately their bodies ablaze. It's hard for me to conceptualize a belief so strong that I would set others on fire for it. So really and truly a very cruel way to murder somebody.
I think it would be particularly challenging for you because, like we discussed in our last episode, you are happy to agree just to get out of the confrontation.
Absolutely. Whatever you say goes, big guy.
Yeah. I do that if the other person is clearly unreasonable. I don't mind having a conversation where I mean, you know this because you know that Andrew and I will sit around and we'll debate things that don't matter just for the hell of it.
Yeah, and then I want to go somewhere and lay down and play a video game.
Yeah, like inconsequential things. But if somebody that I'm speaking to is like being unreasonable about something, then I know that we're not gonna make any. It's not a productive conversation. So why have it?
Yeah.
So
excellent work.
Thanks.
I mean it. I liked it.
I'm glad that you enjoyed it. You say it every time though, so sometimes I'm like, is he just saying this so we can move along?
No, I mean, I don't have anything else to say, and so I'm like, it was really good.
Yeah, thank you.
That's all we've got for this episode. Thank you for listening.
Until the next crime.
If you enjoyed listening and want to hear more, please subscribe, give us a 5-star rating, and leave a review.
A complete list of sources can be found in the episode description.
Recommend us to a friend. And if you are able and willing to help us produce the podcast, sign up for our Patreon.
The link to joining our supportive bestie tier for only $2 a month is listed in the show notes. Also, make sure you're following us at End of Crime Pod on Instagram.
And our email address is endofcrimepod@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out with any questions or episode suggestions. Let me know if you want me to recover the Ladybird Lake deaths from a new perspective, because 3 people have reached out, and I don't know if there's enough of you. I will gladly revisit. I am not opposed to saying I'm wrong.
Bye!
That's all for now.